Hello everyone, welcome to Beyond the Pulpit. We know that the reality is that there's only so much time we have during our church services, but there's always more to talk about. That's why we're taking the conversation beyond the pulpit. This is where we dive deeper into conversations we wish we had more time for. This is Paolo Punzalan, and together with our pastors from Victory BGC, we're excited to talk about faith, life, church, and the questions that matter to you. Join us every first and third Wednesday of the month for a new episode. We're glad you're here, and we hope you enjoy this time we have together. Hello everyone, welcome to Beyond the Pulpit podcast. This is our first ever.
Yahoo!
And we are with
Ayos.
Pastor Daniel. He is our 2 p.m. Lead pastor.
Alas dos.
Every Sunday, tapos 6 p.m. naman, si Pastor Jojit.
Alrighty.
So guys, any highlights for the month? Anything that you can think of that...
Highlights.
Yeah.
Ikaw muna. Mukhang may ka pa, Brad.
Oo nga, ito, February. Siyempre, love month.
Oh, yeah. Kaya ako naka-red.
A lot of people were in love. It's just nice I got to talk to a lot of people who are in love. Oh, ang dami.
Talaga ba?
Oo.
Sila pa rin?
Sila pa rin. Masaya pa naman. Masaya pa naman. That's the first question I ask. Pag nakita ko sa'yo, masaya pa kayo? Masaya pa naman
Masaya
daw.
naman.
Sabi ko, sisimula lang yan. Sasaya pa yan pag tagal-tagal.
That's true. Ano ba to? Usapang mag-asawa to? Boyfriend, girlfriend?
Well, yung iba getting there. Basta
Okay.
masaya pa naman.
Gotcha.
But like for us naman, I one of the things I liked was the We Serve General Assembly. Last February 15 kasi we had an opportunity to hear from Dr. Nixon Nang talking about serving in God's kingdom.
Oo nga, no?
Oh, it was really nice. And also, we got to recognize people who have been serving here in Victory BGC for quite a while. So, nagkaroon tayong recognition for those who have been serving 0 to 4, merong 5 to 9 years, 10 to 14 years. And we had a number of people also who served here for 15 to 19 years. And a number of people who've been serving here for more than 20 years. So, ang galing lang din. So, it's nice. And to think, Victory BGC is only, 21 years old.
Right.
So, and there have been people who are still here serving since 2003.
Hindi pa ako pinapanganak dito na
Wow.
Joke lang.
College pa tayo nun, estudyante pa tayo nun.
Elementary pa ako nun.
Wow.
Biro lang.
Ikaw, any
podcast
highlight?
ito. Puro kasi sinungaling na lang din. Joke lang.
Puro kalokohan.
Kalokohan. Well, the month of February is our anniversary month. Kami ng aking asawa. So, we celebrated, kaya naka-red ako.
Kita ko yun, nag-camping kayo eh.
Yes. Merong backstory yun. Pwede ko ba ikwento dito? But
Sige.
Pwede.
I-edit na lang nila kung ayaw nila isama.
Love, kung nasaan ka man. No, it was we celebrated our 13th year
Sure ka ba?
anniversary. So, sure na sure.
13.
Kausapin ko muna siya. Hello? Hindi.
Swerte yun.
13th year. Oh, swerte daw.
Pero bawal yun.
Swerte.
Mahala.
Oo nga. Supposedly, we were, scheduled to fly to Korea. So, may backstory. So, basta nagkagulo-gulo yung mga schedule and na-late din yung pagdating ng visa and everything. So,
Oh, wow.
and then we tried to rebook. But apparently, the rebooking fee in ayoko na sabihin ko anong flight. Pero kung ano man, may sponsors ba ito? Joke lang. Pero, yun nga. So, doble siya, di ba? So, parang sige, masakit, but we have to let go. But, una, wala kami visa pa. Pero naman kami lumipad.
Hindi dumating.
Hindi dumating.
At all.
Hindi, dumating, pero on the day of the flight. So, parang wala na talaga. So, ang daming hassle.
Okay.
Tapos, basta may mga schedule issue. So, from there, right there, and then nag-decide kami, sige, mag-camping na lang tayo. So, we found a campsite in Tanay na parang pagdating namin doon, kami lang. So, feeling namin kami may-ari nung bundok.
Hacienda mo.
Parang amin to. Ganun. So,
Nice.
so, we had that place for a night. So, it was good.
Nice.
Highlight for me. That's a highlight for me.
Kala ko sasabihin mo, pagdating sa Tanay, parang pagdating yung akala nyo, Korea din.
Korea din. Pwede. Then, aside from that, ministry-wise, maraming nangyayari. So, 2 o'clock, syempre. But yeah, kayo na muna. Baka. Yeah.
So, for us also, di ba, recently, we just had yung Victory Weekend. And I believe that was a very powerful moment where number of people got baptized, even sa services. Nakita ko sa 2 p.m. meron dalawa na nagpa-baptize. in the
In
service.
service yun,
Yeah.
in service.
And in the 6 p.m. meron isa, and his testimony was really powerful, talking about how he went through as a young kid ng, well, public information naman na yun kasi he shared it, mental health issues growing up and how he was so lost, so broken, and yet has he encountered Christ. Siyempre, major transformation and major life change, and now living his life for the Lord. And it's nice that he got to share a little bit more about his life nung after kasi ng water baptism niya, after the service may couples connect.
Right.
Dun sa couples connect, he also got to share about his love life. Ayan, so ang saya. So, di ba? New life and love life.
That's nice, that's nice.
Nice.
Ikaw, parang balita ko, nag-spend time ka ng
may
Valentine's
staycation.
mo sa...
May staycation ako sa hospital.
Magkano per
Iba yung
night doon?
staycation ko doon. Yeah, I got hospitalized
Yeah.
for kidney stones. And then actually, kidney stone was easy. Madali lang yun kasi may shockwave procedure. But it's more they found kasi parang something with my discs loss of fluid.
Anong disc yan? Floppy? Sorry for those listeners.
Laser.
Laser disc.
Laser disc.
Oh, wow.
What's a floppy disk, Dad?
So, sabi nung doctor, kailangan daw i-strengthen yung core. So, I told the doctor, hindi ba enough yung 6-pack ko?
Wow! Gusto ko yan.
Sabi niya kasi 8 daw dapat.
Kailangan 8.
So,
Well,
sabi ko, in 2 months, kaya ko yan.
I'm working on that.
Wow. Kailangan sumunod na rin tayo.
Yun na lang.
Sige. Wala mo nang
Magkaedad tayo eh.
Teka muna, seryosohin na natin
Sige,
to.
may topic daw tayo.
Baka hindi na
guys.
makinig tong mga nandito.
Oo nga, na-bore na sila. Anyways,
Sige,
the
well,
topic of what?
hindi, kasi since last February was our Love Like His series.
Yeah.
No? So that's what we want to dive in today. Talk about that. No? So parang, specifically in the topic of forgiveness. Okay, because when you talk about love, a big portion of that would be part of, because we're relational beings. That's true. And as we are connecting and relating with people, there's inadvertently will be things that will be said, not said, done, not done.
Yeah.
And because of that, there's going to be offense or pain or hurt.
That's true.
Diba? So let's talk about that for a moment, no?
Okay.
About forgiveness. So baka meron kayong personal experiences where you either had to give or release forgiveness or ask for forgiveness. Meron ba kayo naisip na gano'n? Have you
Kamusta na kayo ng misis mo?
Masaya pa naman. Masaya pa naman.
Biglang pasok yung misis eh.
No, actually, thinking about it, on a serious note din kasi, parang for me, I think the people closest to us are likely the ones to hurt us the most.
Nga.
And it's not necessarily because diba, they try to hurt us, but the reality is that when they do something or they don't do something, even if it doesn't compare with yung kung ano man yung ginawa ng iba, pero because they're so closer to us, the proximity makes it, magnifies the offense.
Yeah.
And so now, thinking about it, syempre, a lot of things siguro the hurts that I have experienced always happen in closer proximity. For example, di ba, even in marriage, you say something or you say something to one another, okay, may sting dyan eh. But looking at it, even children, the kids, you want them to do something, they don't do it, they don't listen. Siyempre parang, it also parang frustrates you and all. So, I think a lot of it has to do with, yung parang dealing with that. How I would put it is that it's a daily surrender, so to speak, na parang, will I choose to hold grudges against them? And to think, it's not like I did not instigate something. Malamang naman din siya. I also, a few weeks ago, I got to preach in the Sabado 4 p.m. and the Sunday 6. I have a lot of rough edges din naman. Hindi din naman ako perfect. So probably, they are also responding to how I have been with them. So, yun nga, parang it becomes a cycle of offense. And now, because it's like that, you put yourself in position na, when they offend me, how will I respond? Will I respond and be embittered? Or will I choose to forgive, so to speak? So, yun yung parang laging labanan dyan. So now, again, closer proximity. But kasi sometimes the reality for me is that if there are people na I don't really know, medyo distant naman sa akin, they do something, medyo easier to brush off eh. But it's the ones that are closer to us, then yung medyo may kurot. Yeah.
Personal experiences, meron ba kayo?
Many to mention. Well, hindi, pero to add on to what you're saying, Jojit, I think the reason why usually the deepest offense or hurts comes from the closest people around you is because of that unspoken, what do you call this, expectation that in a way, parang dapat sila na yung nakakaintindi, sila dapat yung mas nakakakilala sa akin o nagmamahal sa akin in that sense. So, and then, it did not happen. So, dapat alam niya na yun. Parang yun, or dapat ginagawa niya na to. So, something like that. So, kaya siguro, when it's not said, as you said, it's not said, it's not done, or it is said, or it is done, whatever that is, ano siya, ang lalim niya. Pero ang question ko doon, paano yung mga hindi mo naman kilala pero kinat ka sa kalsada? Nagagalit ka?
But ito, the answer is yes.
Saglit lang.
The answer is yes. But for me kasi, when we talk about the topic forgiveness kasi, ang bigat ng idea ng forgiveness kasi, I think it's a response, it's a good response kasi baka there's a grudge that was being built in my heart. Pero kunwari, nainis lang naman ako, I got frustrated, tapos wala na, nakalayo naman na kasi siya. Like, on my way here, I got cut like several times. Iba yan. May motorcycle, may bus, may truck. So, halo-halo na.
Diba?
But I'm not holding anything in the heart. Kasi nga, easy to brush off eh. Kama na sila, sige.
True.
Bahala na si Lord sa kanila. Wag lang sila magdamay ng iba.
So, to answer the question, Pipaw, yung any personal experience, parang, well, to be honest, ang dami, no? But, yan. No, in terms of, siguro kami ng misis ko, okay lang ba yun?
Ka-counsel ka namin.
Oo nga. Can I have this moment? Pero lang. Well, number one, yung mga expectations, di ba? Yung, you're expecting this. Ang hirap pag-detalyado pagka ganito, no? Marami makikinig dito, di ba? Love if you're listening to
Wala,
this.
mga 5 lang naman.
Para doon sa mga 10 makikinig nito, alam nyo na.
Pero isa siya doon.
Love, ikaw na bahala dito. No, I mean, okay, in general, okay, kunyari, I'm expecting something. Ito, matagal na namin ito naging issue. Siguro mga few years of our marriage. Yung pag-prepare ng breakfast. Because I have an expectation na pagising ko nung nag-asawa na kami, parang may sense ako na sana pagsilbihan niya ako. Parang ganon. So, syempre, I was expecting na pagising ko, bago pumasok ng trabaho, di ba, may nakahain na. Aba, wala. So, well, of course, my wife naman is, sige, alam, sabi ko asan yung breakfast. Ganun ba? Kinuha niyo yung tasty dun sa ito yung palaman. Ayan, yung breakfast. So, yan na yun. So, wala man lang pa-fried egg man lang. So, those were mga initial years. Siguro, first year yata namin nung kasal kany. So, syempre, offended ako na parang, ano to? Di ba? Ito ba yun? So, that was one of the many. Syempre, marami rin akong ginawa, no? Against din my wife. Pero, I think in terms of what was done to me, yan, parang, that was a point of, I can't get over it. At that point, I can't get over it. Kasi I was expecting. And then, hindi nga nangyari. So, the whole day talagang, aburido ako. So, until umuwi, wala pa rin pansinan. Ganun. So, umabot kami sa, kailangan na natin kausapin si Pastor Nixon kasi nga, wala nang, hindi na tayo magkaayos. So, we have to go through that. So, of course, with the help of, someone who mediates for us.
Yeah.
So, yun,
Tama.
Mamaya I'll answer why I think it's so hard to forgive. But, to answer the personal ones, that's, one of the many.
But is it possible din kaya na kasi it's something that was maybe a practice at home or something? It's something that was seen at home. I don't know, baka you have insights kasi like talk about marriage and forgiveness kasi. Like for my parents kasi, 'di ba, when they were alive, I never saw them fight. So yung parang for me, whatever, I don't know how they offended one another. Kasi super hindi ko talaga nakikita in my parents. So for me, automatic na should there be an offense, parang never heard my dad say anything bad about my mom or anything.
Gotcha.
Like vice versa. So parang I think because that was ingrained, is it something also na I bring into the home na parang sige. Kaya for me parang thinking about that question was, is there a personal experience? it wasn't that easy for me to think of one. Kasi parang ko, oo, na-offend naman ako. Pero, like, after a while, I just let it slide. I think maybe it's a gift that, sabi nga, most men are compartmentalized na mag-isip.
Wow.
Now, we can set aside certain things because we still need to function. We still need to, di ba? So, I don't know, is it something kaya na upbringing or...
It's so hard to,
Very possible, yeah. Well, for me, I think I remember growing up kasi dahil my parents separated So,
yeah.
and that was something that I had to deal with. 15 years I didn't see my dad. So when I first saw him, I was 16 already. And so, of course, growing up, I grew up in an all-boys school. So which means, pag father and son Olympics, wala eh. So parang, those were times na I said, I wish I had my dad with me. And so I've always, I guess I did not necessarily have a hatred or an unforgiveness. But I think there still had to be an opportunity for me to do that. When I think I was 21 or 22 years old when I sat him down, or we met first time ever face to face. And then, kasi I came from a Bible study the week before, a small group meeting. And the conversation was about honoring and forgiveness. And so I asked my small group leader for wisdom and even prayer. That very next day after the small group, I called my dad. I said, can we have coffee? Can we have lunch pala actually? It was in Mega Mall pa at that time. So we sat down. And then for the first few moments, kasi he was a broadcaster. So he talked marami siyang kwento, ganun. And after about an hour, I cut them short. And I said, Papa, the reason why I wanted to meet with you is because, number one, I wanted to tell you I honor you as my dad.
Nice.
And then it's just that, things didn't work out with you and Mom, I know. But I want to let you know that there's forgiveness in my heart for you. I know it takes two to make things work now, but the times when you weren't there, from birthdays to basketball games to graduation, all that's forgiven.
Yeah.
And so parang there was a moment I had to release forgiveness.
Yeah.
Because it was hard kasi nga it wasn't something that I was I don't know if I was prepared to do it, but I just knew it was the right thing to do.
Right.
So that was a personal experience for me that I can't remember. And then I think from that time on, the Lord fixed that relationship. Kumbaga yung lamat na ayos ni Lord. In fact, interestingly enough, when my son was born, my dad and I became so close. In his mind, I grew up with my dad. Parang that's how the Lord restored and fixed the relationship.
That's good.
To the point na it didn't look like there was something there.
Wow.
And so I think it was because of the grace of God when there was an exchange. And when I asked for when I forgave my dad, and then my dad kasi was stoic. So walang But I just felt spiritually there was a wall that broke.
Wow.
And the Lord did something, and then he walked me down the aisle when I got married. He passed away years ago, but in his older years, we were able to spend a lot of time with him. And so parang the Lord fixed something there.
I have a question there kasi pagdating sa issue ng forgiveness, I guess it's one thing that you have made a decision and okay, I'm giving. I'm forgiving. Okay, it's like for example for your dad, diba? But was there a time that parang in a way you felt like parang galit mo pala ako sa kanya? I realize.
Yeah.
Pero ikaw kasi, Pastor Jojit, yung kwento mo parang ikaw parang wala, is it because you find it easier
Siguro,
for you to forgive?
Don't get me wrong, it's not like I dismissed my own emotions. I actually apparently have a lot of deep thought on like the things that went through in my life.
Yeah.
Kaya nga I would say na maaga ako nagtanda. But I just had to learn na parang, well, for one, to live with it. Secondly, to let it go. Pero I don't know, I wasn't a Christian when I was going through all of the things in the dark moments in my life. I'm thankful na maaga ako na-reach out. Na college pala, na-reach out na ako. But like my late LM to my high school years were really the toughest. Like I had a lot of, I had a lot of rejection issues, insecurity.
Okay.
Maybe not family nga.
Okay.
Hindi naman family driven, but school. And, but I just learned na parang, it is what it is
Okay.
And now, because it's like that, how do I respond?
Okay.
Kasi talo rin ako Parang ganun. I think I remember in the words of Pastor Steve siguro, it rang a bell when he said it's a stage eh. Yung motion drives emotion. But so now I have, because
Amazing.
I have to move towards getting out of this dark moment. Then sige, forgiving people, not thinking about it, medyo slight, baka nga the term, totoo is really dismissing it, but maybe in the sanctified term is yung, I just have to let go of it and move forward. And little by little, di ba? Parang even if I remember the pain that I had when I was
that's what I'm
young,
asking.
I remember all of these things, parang I'm no longer triggered.
Yeah, and I think that's important. No? It's a good question kasi parang there will be times that you still will feel
Yeah.
Exactly.
pain or anger or unforgiveness, diba? That's the feeling. But that's why nga forgiveness is a choice and a decision one has to make. Kasi nga, as you make that decision, emotion will follow. Diba? So you make that decision and you say to God and say, Lord, I've made this decision to forgive. And then the emotion hopefully will just follow later on.
Okay.
Yung last, 2 weekends, or several weekends ago, in preaching nga, I shared actually the story of my in-laws. How, because of the love of my mother-in-law and my wife and her siblings, they showed their love to my father-in-law who was separated from them for 14 years.
True.
And so, to cut the long story short lang, there was a season na when they were here na in Victory, so tinanong sila by one of the friends ng mother-in-law ko, Tita Connie. So, anong prayer mo? Do you want restoration? Do you want to move on? And sabi mother-in-law ko, restoration. And so they prayed, they did something. So actually, just recently, we were sharing this to somebody. And they were, I don't know if it was Tita Connie or somebody else from the spiritual community who told them, oh, why don't you write a letter asking for forgiveness from your dad? So, parang absurd in a way. Kasi sila na nga na-abandon, sila na nga yung what. And they had to write a letter for the things that they have said and done and the ill thoughts they had against the dad. Kasi dishonoring, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And so, nakaabot yung letter sa father-in-law ko. And when he was reading it, parang he was just crying all over the place. Kasi sinasabi nga niya, ako na nga tong, who did all of these things. I abandoned and all. Parang basically, he did so much against the family. And yet, the family is asking for forgiveness from him. He couldn't understand na parang, how could this family still love me? Despite everything. And the story, if I think my wife shared it before. Di ba in the 14 years na hiwalay yung daddy from the rest of the family, never nawalan ng spot sa dining table yung daddy. Kasi anytime he comes home, there will always be a spot for him. Talagang bawal kayo kumain dyan. Talagang that's for your dad. And so, and he saw the love, And so, long story short, when everything got restored, it is as if, man, and this was the first story I heard about it when I was courting my wife back then.
I'm just curious. Kasi I think one of the things that we've been talking about now is just a one-time thing and then everything went well. But was there anything in our experience that it has to be like maybe
it's a constant thing that you have to forgive.
Man.
Or progression.
Alam mo, may ganun eh. Maybe progression or maybe a perpetual.
Yeah.
Maybe one of the reason is kunyari, wala na rin naman chance yung kabila to say something for the situation or talagang possible din na hindi niya talaga alam. And
or
there's no other way of that person to say, I'm sorry or whatever.
Yeah.
Diba?
Or pwedeng recurring pa rin by offense.
If I may also tell my story about my dad. Kasi I also grew up without a dad and I met my dad when I was 9. So, growing up then I have a question like, bakit wala yung tatay ko and mga ganun. So, somehow, I don't consider myself that I'm mad at my dad. Although, syempre, 4 naman kami magkakapatid. And I alam ko rin yung mga kwento ng mga kapatid ko about how they see Papa. But for me, I have that sense of bakit kaya niya kami iniwan? So, parang ganun. So, I think it personally for me, it gave me a little bit of, ano ba tawag doon? Siguro yung at least tampo. Tampo ako doon. And growing up, I had that sense na because I don't have a picture of a dad in the family, nagkaroon din ako ng fear na kaya ko ba maging tatay in the future? Kasi nga, di ba, I have no picture. So, well, of course, syempre, long story short, paano ba yan? Parang, natulungan din naman with the people who discipled me in the church. They gave me an example how to be a dad when they invited me to their homes and all of those things. So, happy naman ako. But, syempre, meron pa rin akong fear of, and that. But, I felt like, oo nga, no, because I have that sense na I haven't really released my dad. Dun sa tampo na yon, I won't consider that I'm at that time, no, I have that time parang, and then I remember I went to a conference about there was a conference in the States na na-attendan ko, and the preaching was about the Father heart of God.
Oh wow.
And that broke me in many pieces kasi parang in a way because I felt the love of God as a father over me. But at the same time, for many years din pala, I have been, 2011 to. Ano pala ako ng mga 6 years old. Joke lang. Biro lang. Pero 2011, no? So parang, engaged na ba kami noon? Yata, oo. So, hindi pa ako engaged noon. But, so parang, for many years before that, parang I felt like, there's a lot of, may mga baggages ako that I feel, I know it's coming from that. Because my father left us, yung hindi niya pinakasalan si Ma. Yung mga ganun, yung maraming mga kwento behind it. And then at that point, I felt like that day, 2011, I forgot the month, but it was a conference in the States, na I felt the love of God, and then I have to release that parang forgiveness to my dad na hindi ko naman siya makausap at that point. Kasi he's somewhere else. Wala naman kaming means of communication. Yeah. So,
Was there a moment that you were able to talk to him?
Through a letter, yes.
Okay.
Through a letter.
Did you feel release from there?
Yes, actually. And then, in a way, but of course, the sad part is that I thought mayroon pa kaming chance to meet, but that letter pala was the last letter because few months after that, he passed away. So, but, looking back, parang I realized I have those moments of fear and insecurities because I'm coming from that unforgiveness that I have with my dad until that year 2011.
Did you get a response from him?
Wala. Kasi ang sumulat nung una si Papa sa akin asking me if I can go daw sa States, and at that time I was in the School of World Missions. So, parang I felt like sige, my calling is here in the Philippines, but maybe someday, sabi ko parang ganun. But wala na response from there. So within months after that, we receive a report na wala na siya, ganun.
Wow.
So I still have the letter.
Wow.
Ang galing.
But I think that's important kasi there are times kasi na you won't have that opportunity to meet with them face to face.
Yeah.
But forgiveness kasi is beyond just having that conversation face to face. It's actually a decision in your heart that you have to make. Kasi, like, I don't know, there are people who are listening here today na somebody's already gone.
Yeah.
And yet there's still hatred or unforgiveness or bitterness in the heart. So, what do you do with that? Diba?
Yeah.
Do you actually hold on to it because you can no longer see the person? Or do you make that decision to release?
Yeah.
Kasi naman, forgiveness is more for you than for the other person.
Yeah.
Diba? Surely, it will bring reconciliation and
Yes.
restoration if they hear your forgiveness. But at the same time, for you, when you make that decision, it really does a healing work in your heart. Diba?
And I think lang, siguro, all of us have shared na we all lost parents at a young age. Parang you lost your mom. Ilan taon ka pa, Sir Paolo?
My mom was 19.
Ikaw, when you're, ganun din. Not so.
Not so.
Young.
20 plus na yan.
Di ba? Pero still young. Ako rin, my mom died when I was 19. My dad died when I was 28. So yung parang sabi ko nga, whenever I get to encounter people who hold grudges against their parents, sabi ko, while they're still alive, there's still a chance. Would you like to take this time to, at least in your heart, start moving towards that direction of forgiveness? Kasi habang buhay eh. And who knows what that can do. Just like what you shared sa daddy mo, Pastor Paolo, di ba? Di ba? If you did not at least start with that decision sa heart mo to forgive, then di ba, your kids would have missed out on a wonderful relationship with your dad too. So kaya nga ganun, I always share, parang habang buhay, there will always be an opportunity for us to forgive and even move towards reconciliation and restitution pa nga. So,
I get it.
Maybe for those who are listening, how do you keep that? How do you have that lifestyle of forgiving, or how do you posture your heart so that you can forgive? Diba? Kasi sometimes you can demand yourself, forgive ka lang. But is that dismissive naman of your emotion? Or, diba? Or even when you tell people, patawarin mo na, diba? Does that naman take away empathy? Diba? Or does that actually invalidate one's emotions? Diba? So, how do you cultivate that though?
I think forgiveness has to be an informed decision.
Informed decision.
Yeah, yung you know na yes, I was deeply hurt or I was hurt. Naman varying degrees.
Alright.
And then, syempre, you don't just dismiss that. Kasi alam mo naman talaga, we're not, hindi naman dismissive lang of what happened. You don't deny what happened in the past. Hurt can be, as we heard from some of the teachings, can be actual or perceived anyway. So, but secondly, it's good to understand then where we stand when it comes to our own life. Well, biblically kasi, this is where I'm coming from.
Okay.
Well, we forgive because we too have been forgiven.
Okay.
It's not like I lived a perfect life. I have offended God. Close lang.
Almost.
Close to perfect lang. De, joke lang. So, but I know I've done things against a holy God. There are things I'm not proud of, and even the mere thought of it and mention of it makes me cringe also until now.
Yeah.
But God forgave me. And I shared sa pulpit nga, I don't even deserve to be here in front of everyone because of the things that I know that I've done. But God chose to forgive. Yung ganda lang nung sa the wording, He chooses to remember our sins no more.
Yeah.
It was a choice He made to remember our sins no more.
That's good.
And even for us, we have a choice. But do we extend the same grace?
Yeah.
Of course, the relationship may no longer be the same. I think I saw na...
Like what you said, yun na, yung, there might be some changes. But yeah,
there will be some changes, of course. But it doesn't mean naman, like what you said, kasi forgiveness is also for us. Now, whenever you see the person, or even if namatay na nga yung person, you think of that person, you will no longer be triggered. You will no longer feel that bitterness all over again.
Yeah.
And the Bible is also it's very clear in Hebrews 12:15 kasi sinabi, di ba? See to it that no one misses the grace of God, no root of bitterness spring up and cause trouble.
Yeah.
And by it, many become defiled. Kasi if we hold on to that bitterness in our hearts, even our relationships can be embittered. Yeah. Na parang I'll be guards up all the time. I cannot trust people. So baka pati kayo, when we after this conversation, ako baka si Pastor Dan o Pastor Paolo talking behind my back. Yung magkakaroon ng ganun eh.
Yeah.
So, but it could have been, it may have been an extreme example at this time, but the truth that if there's something there, it will affect the relationships around me also.
True.
Yeah.
So,
Yung naisip ko is siguro before so to speak, the lifestyle of forgiveness, parang I think the person has to identify first what is it like to have unforgiveness. Kasi minsan, yung part na yun, hindi rin siya identified properly. Kaya parang, okay na, napatawad ko na. Yeah. Pero, by words yun. Kasi sinabi mo eh. So, okay na naman ako sa kanya.
Yeah.
Pero nung nakita mo siya, di ba? Parang, di ba? Nalilisik yung mata mo. Nandito to. Ba't umatin to dito?
So, what does it look like?
Okay. So, in my mind now, while I was thinking through the unforgiveness that I had with my dad, when he was alive, yung parang, number one, may tampo ako. Parang I feel bad.
Parang you were let down.
Parang yon. I think that's the right, description there. Tapos yung parang, siguro, I think, to define unforgiveness for me then is that I can't even think of something good about the person.
About the person?
Oo. Or even bless in prayer. Na something like that. Kasi nga may tampo ka. At least, yun yung description ko, may tampo ako.
Right.
So, and then, syempre, the inverse of that would be, yun nga, now you can at least think well of the person.
Yeah.
So that becomes
Or pray
your
for the person.
mindset now for that person na, okay, yeah. So, yun yung decision part na I have to think well.
Yeah.
Because although ginawa niya to before, parang ang hirap nun, di ba? Kasi nga, ginawa niya, tapos, kunyari, never naman siya nag-sorry, but in your heart of hearts, you release that person. So, how does that look like? So,
That's a good question. Can you forgive a person who has not asked for forgiveness?
the quick answer is yes. Yes, kasi nga, sabi mo nga, di ba? You mentioned this in your preaching, that it's pretty much, the responsibility of one person to release forgiveness. Not necessarily kailangan dalawang in agreement. So, that's one. So, but the intentionality part is, then I have to be intentional. That I have to think well about that person. And sabi nga ni Lord, di ba? Yung to pray for those who persecute you.
Yeah.
To love your enemies. So, parang, yun yung mga decision part na hindi emotionally driven, na you don't feel like, di ba? You don't feel like blessing them. Okay? Hindi mo nga pinagpe-pray mga kaibigan mo, di ba? Tapos biglang yung kaaway mo, yung nang-offend sa'yo, pray mo. So, at least, Lord, bless them. Huwag naman yung Lord. Iba yun, iba din yan. Lord, kayo na bahala. Biro lang.
Let them meet you.
Oo, di ba? Pero, sorry. You can scrap that in the podcast. Pero, yun, I think yun yung lifestyle. The intentionality part. So, ngayon, naiintindihan ko yung mga, like ako, syempre, like us, di ba? Na, nagre-relapse ba yung tawag nila? Nagre-relapse. Parang, hindi ba ako nakapagpatawad? Kayo ba? Anong bang answer? Kasi my answer to that is...
I can take a stab on
Okay,
that
sige.
question. Hindi kasi, yan. Like, can you forgive someone who has not asked for forgiveness?
Okay.
Yeah.
Sa atin lang to. Secret natin
Oh,
to. Dito
wala
lalabas
naman
na.
nakikinig sa atin ngayon eh.
Like, pero na-share naman namin to sa Couples Connect. So, alam niyo na, kung saan direction to. My wife would share this. My wife would share this, that even we've been together 25 years na sa couple.
Wow.
Quarter of a century as a couple. Tagal, di ba? Pero married for 17. Wow. So, magde-debut na kami this year. And she would say, and she knows, and until now, bilang lang sa kamay in the number of times that she apologized to me for something.
Okay, sige.
Kaya nga eh. So, and it's not like she says it proudly, but like whenever she does naman something hurtful or wrong, she would show it, but siguro verbalizing it is different. But alam niya yan na parang there are times na I still pursue, and for me naman that's okay. This is how I made amends with that. I had to look at it from that perspective na where is she coming from? What was her context? I did not know these things until siyempre we went to trainings. Pero even when we were during our younger years, parang I wonder where she's coming from. Why didn't she learn to apologize and all? So, syempre, that's her personal life. But after we talked about it and understanding more about it, parang I made that resolve in me na, sige, I don't need to hear your sorry. Once na basta ganun, I can forgive. I can talk to you normally. Basta sa akin, show me a hint na okay na tayo. And when, dun naman siya, yung babawi naman, she may not have verbalized it. She may not, kasi syempre, there's something about, di ba sabi niya, actions speak louder than words, but words are powerful too.
Oh, yeah.
Words are important too.
Yeah.
And even if she did not verbalize it naman, the moment she hinted na okay na siya, and okay na, or she's sorry about it naman, okay na ako doon. And for me naman, even before that naman, I made that decision in my heart na I will not disown. I will not do something that parang
Okay.
kaya nga for us, it's been like that. And hindi naman siya yung sobrang sama, baka kasi that man. But you get na the
Kilala
idea.
natin kung sino yung i-guess natin next. Bigla ganun. With the guest.
But she knows lang na whenever she has offended me, yun, she shows me hints of it and I'm okay with it already. And yun, and that's how it was work for us. Kasi nga, do I wait for her to say sorry? What if her context, maybe, something happened. Or I'm just saying maybe, na it doesn't allow, hindi naman allow no? Pero hindi siya ganun eh. Ano gagawin ko? It is what it is. Then I guess since I can handle the situation a bit more, then I make the move anyway. I mean, as difficult as it may sound, as simplistic as it may sound, but I don't want to complicate things further. Asawa ko siya eh. I love her eh. So, di ba? Hindi ko na patatagalin. I'll make the first move if I have to.
Ako, I have a question. Can I forgive someone and then I end up still not being this person's friend?
Ha?
I think that's possible.
Ha?
Ano ba? Let's say, ikaw,
Controversial.
inano mo ako. You hurt me.
Yes.
I forgive you, pero...
Yeah, but that's it. FO na tayo. Ganun, no?
F.O.
FO.
Or, pwede ba yun? Or...
Ano yan eh, sa akin, but the question is it possible? Or,
Yeah.
Okay, yes. The
It
possibility.
does happen. I'm sure it does happen.
Yes, oo.
But, is that okay?
Sige. Ako lang to. Again, tayo lang naman.
Siya lang daw yan, ha?
Kung ano
Secret
yung
lang
maririnig
naman, secret
nyo,
lang to.
akin lang to. I mean, I wouldn't, I'm very careful to say if that is totally okay. Siguro I would put it in the category of understandable. It's understandable. But will I personally just say, like, this is fine. Like, ano ba yung term? Condoning it. Medyo ako may mga pushbacks ako doon. Especially, I nasabi ko to sa 2 o'clock when I was preaching about forgiveness, and I'm very careful with the idea na kasi minsan, if I may, yung flippant minsan binibitawan nyo. We can always forgive, but ano ba yan? Reconciliation is optional. It's as if it's an objective principle na parang, ito na yan. So, ito na yan. So, that's it. For me, careful akong magbato ng ganon because there are a lot of stories there that might not be, that statement might not be the wisest thing to hold on to. But in my understanding, siguro at least dalawa or maybe marami pa, dalawa lang yung masasabi ko na, sige, FO na talaga tayo. Number one, if we're talking about life and death. I mean,
may threat.
Mamamatay ako pag, parang gano'n, diba? Parang madededs ako pag magsasama pa tayo, parang gano'n. I mean, diba, my existence will be in peril. So that's one. Number two, and medyo siguro mas general siya in that sense. If baka beyond na to reconciliation, so to speak, if and only if yung katahimikan ko as a person is
Affected.
is really affected. Like, I can't grow. I can't, I'm not at peace. I can be civil, but I'm not at peace.
Yeah.
Kunyari, nagbigay akong case, kunyari, business, di ba? Business partner tayo, ganyan-ganyan. Inutangan mo ako, 10M. Suminaldas mo, di ba? Tapos, bumalik ka, sabi mo, bro, sorry talaga kasi ganyan. Sige, partner ulit tayo. Sige, bigyan mo ulit ako ng 3M. Ito, ngayon, this time, babawi ako. I don't think ganun lang. I can forgive you, brother. Sige, yung 10M, sa'yo na yan. Marami ako.
Bariya lang yan.
Basic, di ba? So, parang, okay na yan, sige, go. Pero, for me to give you another 3M, kaya mas mababa nga from the original, and say, okay, let's be back again in the business. I'm not at peace. I'm not at peace with that. Kasi,
Wisdom
I don't know
din naman
yet
yan.
if you're a
I can
reliable
trust you.
person. Oo. So, I guess, yun nga, the issue of trust is there.
So forgiveness and trust are two different things.
Yeah, I think
Definitely,
so.
definitely.
Agree.
But not, this is where I'm careful. Hindi kasi lahat ng cases ganun.
Yeah.
Tapos, gagamitin nila yon na, kunyari, may
I
issue
see where you're
about,
going with this.
kunyari, I don't know, I don't want kasi to invalidate or demean naman some situations that talagang naka-hurt. Pero, kung hindi naman in that category, sometimes, ang bilis lang ng tao eh. Yeah, I forgive you, pero...
Kinat off mo na.
Oo parang, ang bilis naman. So, ganun lang ba talaga yon? So, yun lang sa akin.
yeah.
So, that's why
I can see where you're coming from.
careful with just, okay, categorically, ganito siya. Well, tignan muna natin yung story. Yun ba talaga yung kalalagyan mo? But,
Agree.
kaya for me, kung kaya pang i-restore, bakit hindi?
Yeah.
Yun yung
Make every effort.
Oo, make every effort. At saka,
Yeah.
isn't
As long
that,
as it's up to you.
at saka as a Christian, isn't that our ministry? Diba? That we at least, aside from the gospel that reconciles people to God, you also reflect that to the people that you're living with.
Yeah.
So at least yung at the basic. But again, syempre nga, dahil nga broken ang mundo, di ba? Yung mga bagay talaga na sobrang hindi mo na ma-handle. So I understandable.
Okay.
Kasi hindi ka na mabubuhay eh. Or,
Sige.
di ba, yung mga ganun. So anyway, so yun lang
I
yung
get
sagot
it.
ko doon, Tito.
Okay, thank you.
I mean,
Appreciate that.
I'm really careful with making those blanket statements.
Okay. Well, guys, it's really been a really good conversation. Medyo
Bitin.
nalunod ako sa lalim nun eh.
Kape pa.
Kape pa. Para
pa.
tsaka tumatagak-tak na yung tayong pawis natin. Pinatay yung aircon. Maingay sa podcast eh.
Mainit yung mga tenga.
But
Oil
any
na.
last words, Pastor Jojit, Pastor Daniel,
Yes.
Yeah.
before we wrap our conversation up?
Again, for me, context nga just has a lot to do with it. But as long as we have the ability, we can make the first move. We can move towards forgiveness. Good to understand lang din the nuances of the situation, of course, just like what you said kanina. Wisdom, trust, good to assess those things. But at least, let's say we meet that person, context tells us naman okay naman, then I hope that when we meet the person who hurt us, walang awkwardness on our part.
Yeah.
I think that's a good KPI, so to speak. A good measure.
Okay.
So, ako lang, babalik lang ako din, as long as we're alive and there's this opportunity, if we can, I pray that God will give us just the grace to move towards forgiveness.
Yes.
Of course, there's the timeline is a different story. The progression is a different story. Let's just not delay it, pero allow God to move. When God says it's time to release, I hope we obey as well.
That's true.
Good. Pastor Daniel?
Yeah, I would want to continue on the word obedience because to forgive is not an optional. It's not like optional.
It's not
siya.
optional.
Hindi siya optional. It's really a command that we have to obey. Very strong yung mga instruction in the scriptures about if we don't and why we should. But then again, it's where do we get the strength to release that despite of the hurtful things that happened to you and that yung kabila hindi nagre-respond the way you expect them to respond. It's really to be exposed and to be reminded of the love of God. I mean, it's as basic as ABC that we need to be reminded of the cross, the forgiveness of God, that we need to also reflect to the people that we live with. So, yun lang. Babalik talaga tayo kay Lord.
Yeah.
Sure.
Parang cliche-ish na siya in that sense. But the power of that when we embrace that powerful truth is really, it can cause freedom in your life. Yun lang.
Yeah, great. Well, the verse that comes to mind in Colossians 3:13, in the NLT version, maganda yung pagkasabi, make allowance for each other's faults and forgive anyone who offends you. In other words, what Paul was saying, mangyayari at mangyayari. That's why you have to give allowance for each other's faults. It will happen. Forgive anyone who offends you. Remember, the Lord forgave you, so you must forgive others.
Yeah.
And so
Yes.
what you're saying there is, again, with all the context, and we don't want to dismiss or diminish, but at the same time, the Word of God stands true.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys, for your time. Appreciate
you.
this
Yeah,
opportunity
it's,
to have this conversation with you.
Love
Salamat.
it. Yeah.
you.
Disclaimer lang, mahal ko asawa ko. Hindi kami,
Sa
hindi
bahay
kami
ka
magkaaway.
Sa bahay ka naman
Okay.
daw mag-explain.
Magtutuos kami mamaya.
Outside ako lang buka mamaya.
Yun lang.
Anyway,
Alright.
thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for spending time with us today. I hope you enjoyed our extended time together. We would love to hear from you. And if you have any questions or topics you want us to discuss, you can reach us at beyondthepulpit@victorybgc.church. See you in our next episode.